Well, let's get over to a big symbol, and the reason why we're here is extremism along political lines, and that is Ward Churchill. I'd like to read from a few statements that were made by ACTA and yourself from that, and ask you to expand on them. Here's a few things that he was listed in press release, actually in the report, how many Ward Churchill, saying, ever since tenured ethnic studies professor Ward Churchill called victims of 9/11 little Eichmanns, he has become the veritable poster boy for extremists in American academia. And from that, an earlier decision back in June, it was praised in the decision of University of Colorado-Boulder to fire Ward Churchill, or their decision to fire Ward Churchill for academic misconduct, a decision that he's currently appealing with his lawyer and will probably go to court the way things look now. Your statement from that was, quote, Ward Churchill's academic misconduct was serious and deliberate. No university dedicated to the disinterested search for truth can tolerate such conduct. CU, University of Colorado-Boulder, should be commended for understanding and stating publicly that academic freedom does not license professors to ignore their duties to teach and research responsibly. But the need to guard against irresponsible teaching and research does not end with the firing of Ward Churchill. So there's two questions in there. Is that it appears from that Ward Churchill is not a good embodiment of the scholar or post-secondary education from there, and committed things that deserved his firing. What it seemed like ACTA followed the case of Ward Churchill right from the beginning. Is there a distinction that's being made here with what he's saying versus his actual scholarship?
I think it's important to note that when the comments about little Eichmanns first came into the public awareness, ACTA issued a press release at that time saying that we felt that Ward Churchill should be reviewed with all due process because there were a number of politicians and others calling for his firing. We did not believe that that would be appropriate, and as I say, we felt very strongly that he deserved due process and an evaluation of his academic competence. What ultimately happened after an extensive review by his peers, colleagues, and others was a finding of gross fabrications, plagiarism, and basically professional incompetence. And after that finding and a fair assessment over a period of months, ACTA did say that based on these findings from his own institution, that the professional incompetence would certainly call for his leaving the university. But those are two distinct issues. His professional incompetence, which is one, and then the more general issue in terms of the kind of politically extreme opinions that we associate with him. ACTA did a report called How Many Ward Churchills, and we used him as a type, if you will. Essentially our question was, could we put Ward Churchill in context? How many Ward Churchills are there? And we concluded he is not alone, he's quite common. And by that, we meant that the kinds of politically extreme opinions for which Churchill is justly infamous, in fact, are quite common on our college and university campuses. And so what we did in that study was to take a look at college catalogs, syllabi, the very materials that students use to pick their courses and that are available to the public and parents to see. We took a look at those descriptions, and what we found was that professors were using their classroom to push a political agenda in the name of teaching students to think critically in a vast number of institutions and in a vast number of disciplines.
I think we can both concur that a professor to hold and express a political opinion is one thing, but perhaps what is the appropriate scenario, whether they're doing their speaking presentations, their publications, or in the classroom. And my question would be is that a lot has been talked about what a teacher is doing in the classroom. What seems to be a little interesting is Ward Churchill himself, most of his students in the classroom, or classes that he had, except for one semester, which was at the time that he was doing a lot of PR about the whole little Eichmann statement, so he actually received a poor grade. But every other semester or time he's had a review by his students had given him generally good grades for his teaching. So the question becomes is what level of political expression is appropriate? For instance, what if I remember having myself a teacher that said, personally, I think such and such is a war criminal, but they said that was their opinion. Does ACTA find anything problematic about a teacher just expressing their political opinions class if it does relate to the subject at hand, like say a political science class, and a teacher saying, I think such and such should be treated as a war criminal?
Well, as a general, we certainly believe that professors have full First Amendment rights to speak out in the public forum and to say whatever they care to say on any topic. Obviously, in the classroom, there are some constraints. Academic freedom does not mean freedom to say or do absolutely anything. We do feel, and the American Association of University Professors, which in 1915 developed a Declaration of Principles, talks very clearly about the academic obligation of professors, and that is to impart the wide perspective of opinions that have been met accepted scholarly standards in the classroom so that students learn the various concerns, the various perspectives, the various opinions on the topic at hand so that they can learn then to make up their own mind and pick and choose amongst these various perspectives. Our goal as an institution is to simply argue for and continue to promote that kind of academic responsibility that was articulated by the 1915 statement and that we think too often has been forgotten.
Should it be a requirement of a professor to promote multiple perspectives, whatever, let's say, aside from hard sciences? For example, Ward Churchill has argued saying, no, I'm not going to teach multiple perspectives on certain things, just like he said, I wouldn't teach the opposing point that the Holocaust didn't happen. So how do you wrestle with the issue of a professor saying, I find one opinion as credible for scholarly discussions and others do not meet my standard, when after all, students have the right to not go to that class, or they can get a perspective from another teacher perhaps. And like you said, if the curriculum is out there and it seems to be politicized, these students are probably going to have a good idea of what they're getting into anyways.
Well, again, we have education to teach students about fields with which they are not familiar. And education in our colleges and universities is not indoctrination or teaching them a particular conclusion, but in fact teaching them information so that they then can make informed decisions themselves. So I think the question is indoctrination versus education. And there's no question that professors bring their own perspectives to their subject. And as well they should. They've spent their life presumably studying these fields, and many of them have strong opinions about what is a better perspective, what is a more informed perspective. And ACTA believes surely that they should impart that in the classroom. It would be odd if they didn't. But in the same regard, if there are other perspectives, if there is a broader range of issues and opinions, it is their obligation to impart those other ranges of opinions, or at least to let students know that there are other opinions, whether it be in their reading list or in even casual commentary in the course of the classroom. But we certainly understand and expect professors to bring a perspective to the classroom, but it should be one based on accepted scholarly standards, and it should not limit the professors opening up the students' minds to other perspectives.